Hadleyburg was a small town, and it was very proud of one thing: its honesty. For many years, parents had taught this idea to their children from the moment they were born. Do not be tempted. Always stay honest. Because of this, Hadleyburg had earned a wonderful reputation. People in other towns often said, "You cannot corrupt Hadleyburg." The people of Hadleyburg were extremely proud of these words. They believed that honesty was the most important part of their town's name and character. But there was one man who was very angry with Hadleyburg. Nobody knew who he was. Many years earlier, someone in the town had insulted him, and he had never forgotten it. He decided to take revenge, but not through violence. Instead, he wanted to use something much more clever. He wanted to prove that Hadleyburg's famous honesty was not as strong as everyone believed. One night, this mysterious stranger quietly arrived in Hadleyburg. He left a large sack at the home of a respectable older couple, Edward and Mary Richards. The Richards were good and honest people, but they were also poor, and they often worried about money. Inside the sack was a letter. The letter explained that the sack contained $40,000 in gold coins, an enormous amount of money. According to the letter, the money was a gift for a citizen of Hadleyburg who, many years earlier, had said something very kind to a stranger passing through the town. At that time, the stranger had been poor and hungry. A local man had given him $20 and some useful advice without asking for anything in return. That small act of kindness had completely changed the stranger's life. Years later, the stranger had become rich and successful. He wanted to repay the man who had helped him. However, there was one problem. The letter did not reveal the man's name. Instead, it explained that Hadleyburg was famous for being such an honest town that the letter should be read aloud at a public meeting. The man who could correctly repeat the exact words of advice he had given the poor traveler years before would become the true owner of the gold. Edward and Mary Richards read the letter with great excitement. $40,000. It was far more money than they could ever imagine having, but neither of them could remember giving advice to a stranger. They had no idea who the honest man described in the letter could be. For the moment, they decided to keep the letter secret and think carefully about what they should do. They talked quietly late into the night. Mary reminded her husband of all the years they had lived together. They had always worked hard and had never asked for more than they needed. Edward agreed with her, but he could not stop thinking about the sack of gold sitting nearby. It felt strange to have so much money so close to them while not knowing whether it truly belonged to them. Mary suggested that they should immediately tell the town officials about the letter and allow someone else to solve the mystery. But something held them back. A small, quiet voice inside both of them whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, they deserved a chance at the fortune too. That night, unable to sleep, Edward began to wonder. What if he could guess the words? What if he pretended to be the man described in the story? The idea of the gold was becoming too tempting. He began imagining different ways to create a story that would match the letter, even though deep inside he knew that doing so would be dishonest. Meanwhile, the mysterious stranger who had planned this entire trick was not finished. He had actually sent similar letters to 19 of the most important men in Hadleyburg. Each letter contained the same story about the $40,000. But every letter also contained a slightly different version of the helpful words that the mystery man had supposedly spoken to the poor traveler many years before. The stranger's plan was simple, but brilliant. If these respected men were truly honest, none of them would claim money that did not belong to them. But if even one of them was secretly greedy, he might convince himself that the words in his letter were something he could have said. He might then step forward and claim the reward, lying to the entire town. Days passed. The news about the mysterious letter and the enormous amount of gold quickly spread throughout Hadleyburg. Everyone was curious. A public meeting was arranged at the town hall so that the honest man could reveal himself and receive his prize in front of the whole community. In the days before the meeting, the people of Hadleyburg could talk about nothing else. People gathered in shops and on street corners, trying to guess who the mysterious man might be. Many respected citizens secretly hoped that they themselves might be the person described in the letter. Even the most trusted men in town found themselves lying awake at night, thinking about what they would say if they were called upon to identify themselves. They told themselves that they were only curious, but some of them were quietly preparing a story, working out the words they could use to make their own story match the letter. Finally, the night of the meeting arrived. The town hall was completely full. Everyone in Hadleyburg wanted to see the mystery solved. The town's leader sat at the front of the hall. Edward Richards sat nervously among the crowd with his wife, still uncertain about what he should do. The meeting began. The letter was read aloud to everyone. Then something completely unexpected happened. A respected banker stood up and announced that he was the honest man described in the story. He explained the advice he had supposedly given the stranger years earlier. He repeated the words from his secret letter as if they were the exact words he had spoken. The crowd gasped with surprise and admiration. But before he could receive the gold, another man stood up. He made the same claim. He also said that he was the true hero of the story and gave his own slightly different version of the mysterious words. Then another man stood, and another. One after another, nearly 20 of Hadleyburg's most respected and trusted citizens claimed to be the honest man. Every one of them was lying. Every one of them wanted the gold for himself. The crowd began to laugh. Then they gasped. Then they began to argue. Soon, the truth became obvious to everyone. The respected men of Hadleyburg, judges, bankers, ministers, and other important leaders, were not nearly as honest as the town had always believed. One by one, their reputations were destroyed in front of the entire community. People who had trusted these men for many years were now seeing their true character. When they were offered the chance to receive easy money, almost all of them had chosen to lie. In the middle of all this chaos, Edward Richards realized something deeply disturbing. He and his wife had also thought about lying. They too had imagined creating a false answer so that they could claim the gold. Although they had never stood up in the meeting and spoken their false story, they knew in their hearts that they had almost done the same shameful thing as the other men. This realization troubled them deeply. They had always believed that they were honest people and better than others. But now they understood that they had also been tempted. They had come dangerously close to lying, just like everyone else. After the meeting, another shocking truth was discovered. The sack of gold was fake. It contained nothing but worthless metal discs. There was no real fortune at all. The entire test had been a trick from beginning to end. The mysterious stranger had created it only to discover the true character of Hadleyburg, and he had completely succeeded. Hadleyburg's famous honesty was not as strong or as genuine as the people of the town had always claimed. The scandal quickly spread far beyond Hadleyburg. Newspapers wrote about what had happened. People in other towns laughed at Hadleyburg's fall from its proud reputation. The town's famous motto and its old sense of pride were gone forever. In their place were embarrassment and shame. As for Edward and Mary Richards, the guilt they felt over their own near dishonesty weighed heavily upon them. They had never actually stood before the town and made a false claim. But they knew that luck, rather than their own goodness, had prevented them from doing exactly what the other men had done. This private knowledge slowly destroyed their peace of mind. Both husband and wife became sick with worry and shame. Neither of them ever felt the same happiness or self-respect again. In the end, Hadleyburg itself changed. The people no longer believed that their town was specially blessed with perfect honesty. They finally understood that anyone could be tested by temptation, and anyone, when faced with the right temptation, could fail. The people of Hadleyburg even changed their old motto. Instead of using the confident words they had once been so proud of, they adopted a more humble message, a reminder that temptation is powerful and that true honesty must be tested again and again. It should never simply be assumed.